Bubbly Steve is available for pre-order at shopclownfish.com. That's shopclownfish.com. You've got less than a month to pre-order this 15-inch plushie. Check them out. Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
It's time for another daily dose of dismal Disney.
Yeah, we're updating the Scarlett Johansson situation.
And it's going to get ugly. I think this one's going to get really, really ugly. And I think we're going to kind of peel back the curtain and we're going to see how Disney actually treats some people. That they actually do renege on contracts. In fact, somebody pointed out on Twitter, and they're very correct, that Disney backpedaled on contracts with Robin Williams back in the day. They had to buy him a Picasso to kiss butt, but they have a long history of kind of sticking it to people when they, the mouse gives you their word, doesn't always mean they hold up their end of the bargain, and frankly, they have the money and the lawyers to get away with it.
And how many videos have we done with them trying to get out of contractual obligations that when they bought a company, like with the writers, or they bought, with the Predator, they knew it was coming, that their copyright was going to be coming up. They did everything in their power, to be shitty and underhanded. This is what they do. Yeah. I mean, this is what a lot of companies do because they are first and foremost a company, a corporation. They don't care about your feelings.
No, the difference with Disney is that they market themselves as being a very progressive, very family-friendly, very people-friendly place.
Yes, it's all about you and the magic, and we're going to, give you that magic as long as you pay a shit ton of magical money for it. Magical
money. And razzle-dazzle, this is how they make these problems go away. So we're going to talk about Scarlett Johansson, that her lawyers said that she's shocked by Disney's direct attack on her character.
Yeah, it was pretty shitty what they did.
They're basically like, paraphrasing, but they said, well, that bitch got paid $20 million. What's she complaining about?
It's a pandemic. How callous and crappy are you? It's funny, though, because, look, I never really wanted to get upset when a big rich celebrity sues a big rich studio. But they did take it a bit far when they basically implied that she's being callous and her lawsuit was ridiculous in this climate of, the pandemic for a company who has used the pandemic to, pull a lot of shitty things themselves.
Yeah. And look, a deal is a deal, regardless of whether or not you think these celebrities are massively overpaid, which the majority of them are.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that.
But the principle of the thing here is that they had an agreement. Disney deliberately, worked it to their advantage, and then they ran Scarlett Johansson down publicly.
I was surprised by that. I really was.
And it's so bad that actually the Wrap is saying this kind of behavior would not have happened on Bob Iger's watch. But they think that Chapek, with his relatively inexperienced crew, or at least,
I think he takes too many things personally, too.
Yeah, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. And look, Bob Chapek, at the end of the day, he is simply a money guy. He doesn't have the political leanings, I think, that Iger had, that he can't make things look as good publicly.
Iger was more Hollywood, and he was more on like that kind of end of it, like the streaming, the movies, that kind of stuff. So he knows how to handle the situation, or at least negotiating in the middle. Chapek just sees dollar signs, and he's always pinching pennies. I just don't think he has the I don't want to say personality.
Finesse.
Yeah, maybe that's the word. To navigate this situation. But either way, Disney's finally getting people coming out after them, which is kind of funny. But I was surprised in the way that Disney worded their response. I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I mean, this is right up there, and they mentioned, with kind of, Lucasfilm being very blunt with Carano, too. That just Disney under Bob Chapek is being very blunt. Again, whether or not you agree with the decisions they're making, it's very clear that the giant white kid gloves are off, and they're going to do what they can do to claw back whatever money they can.
They only wear the gloves when they're reaching into your pocket to take your money. When anything else comes up, they take that glove off, no loop, and they just,
There you go. And those fingers are thick, man. Those are some thick Mickey fingers. So we're going to talk about this situation before we get into it any further. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 227,000 subs. Thank you for the support. Greatly appreciated. We do talk a lot about Disney, having worked in and around the company for a number of years. In fact, you can check out Geeky's blog at piratesandprincesses.net.
Yep.
There's some dismal Disney news out there, and also good Disney news.
Yeah, I talk about everything. There's things I like, and I say so, you know.
So let's go out to comicbook.com first, and we'll check out some of these other articles, including one where they said that a lot of her Marvel co-stars are not saying anything. Probably because they don't want the white glove to come down on them either. So Scarlett Johansson lawsuit, Black Widow star is shocked by Disney's direct attack on her character.
Yeah, it was pretty bad what they did.
Her agent slammed Disney, saying that it was a direct attack on her character. Johannsen filed suit Thursday, alleging breach of contract over the studio's failure to fulfill the promise of an exclusive theatrical release and potential performance compensation by making it available to stream on Disney+. Disney fired back at this sad and distressing filing, accusing the Black Widow star and producer of callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Again, I want to take this moment to point out the things that Disney has done during the pandemic, like lay off a bunch of their cast members without pay, that they had to help each other with food pantries. Meanwhile, the executives took a little 20% pay cut, which they got back awfully quick. And then he turned around and signed their CFO for an $11 million up to $11 million annual performance bonus. You know, and that's just one executive. And they did that during the pandemic. Wasn't that a sad and distressing, callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects? Meanwhile, they're pulling out of a convention where the National Association of Theater Owners are pissed at them for the Black Widow fiasco. They pulled out of the convention run by them, CinemaCon, saying that the COVID numbers are up and we're really worried about it. Meanwhile, Florida has some of the highest numbers going up like crazy, and I don't see them stopping their cast members from being exposed to it down there. Do you?
No, they are making vaccination mandatory in Florida, which we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
A lot of people are already vaccinated in Florida. I'm not listening about vaccines, whether you believe it, or COVID, whether you believe it. My point is, for the people using this and saying this about her, for her asking for her compensation that she was, you know, they were in the contract to get, then meanwhile they're saying these comments, well, they themselves have behaved in the contrary manner this entire time.
Yeah.
They only claim the pandemic is hurting them when they think they get something for it. Otherwise, they have no problems. Money like water to all their execs and everything else.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, that's fine. But she's a horrible, callous person, and it really wasn't worded in such a way that was a direct attack on her character.
This is a big no-no too. They actually threw out exactly how much money she made. She's like, well, she got $20 million.
Right,
so
and other people pointed out that, yeah, a lot of them get that much money. But then with the box office cut, too, they usually get like $75 million or something like that. So it's a huge cut. I mean, for us normal people in the world, we're like, what the heck are you bitching about? You still got $20 million. But that's not the point. The point was they're deliberately reneging. They're using it out there thinking it would take public opinion and sway their way.
Yeah.
It's still a shitty thing to do.
And just to play devil's advocate here, it's not cheap being a celebrity because a lot of times these celebrities have to hire like security teams. They have to hire all kinds of accountants and lawyers. They basically become their own business. So a way you could look at it is, it's not like she's pocketing $20 million in her personal bank accounts, like the Scarlett Johansson company, the agents and the lawyers and the whatever. This is how these celebrities that make a lot of money in the day still wind up broke at some point in time because they didn't invest very well, because it is expensive to be in the public eye.
Right.
Like that.
I mean, that all being said, it's still a lot of money.
It's still a lot of money.
Either way.
I'm just saying, there are expenses.
They're deliberately trying to sway public opinion to their favor, but I think it's blowing up and biting them in the ass. Because people are like, if they had behaved in a way that they're saying that she should have behaved, people wouldn't be like this. But they've seen Disney act like, asshats about this stuff and do really questionable things during the pandemic themselves.
Yeah, so Johannsen's agent and the CAA co-chairman Brian Lord hit back at Disney. Now, this is going to be interesting because CAA is one of the biggest talent agencies out there. And if they have a problem with Disney, it might be like, well, guess what? We're not gonna recommend that our talent work on your productions anymore, Disney. He hit them back in a statement shaming the conglomerate for shamelessly and falsely accusing ScarJo of being insensitive to the global COVID pandemic in an attempt to make her appear to be someone they and I know she isn't. Basically a greedy, selfish, self-centered, The company included her salary in the press statement. That is a huge no-no. You normally do not do that. And that was just to shame her.
They said an attempt to weaponize her success.
Yep, as an artist and businesswoman, as if that were something she should be ashamed of. As a result of Disney's decision to knowingly violate Scarlett's contract. Now, I don't know the specifics, but again, I was shocked they put the dollar amount in there because usually it's rumored. And to have the company come right out and say this is what she got paid.
Well, beyond that, if it was so up on the up and up and that wasn't an issue, why are there people, in the, now granted it's rumor, but they were talking about Emma Stone and maybe Emily Blunt, even though the Emily Blunt stuff seems to have disappeared a little bit.
Yeah.
That they might be weighing their options in this too. And I think they did that too as a way to be like, we're going to throw you under the bus and we're going to publicly, assault your character too if you do this.
Well, that's the thing, because now we're seeing a lot of her Marvel co-stars apparently are very quiet. They're not saying much of anything. Now, there has been some support, from other people in Hollywood, but as far as people dealing with Disney, it's been crickets because they know Disney could come after them.
I'm sure they were told not to speak, not to say anything, and it's crap. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. It's just if they had a leg to stand on, and then they're trying to say they didn't owe her that money, okay. But when they went to the posting her salary, and they went to call it, basically kind of publicly shaming her.
Yeah, they did.
Then they kind of crossed the line that made it like, okay, now no, we're gonna have to say something.
Yeah, and here's the thing though, because I mean, Mark Ruffalo, and this is what
I thought Mark Ruffalo was super far left and should be like all about a woman getting paid fairly.
Yes, we're gonna see where these people really stand. Because if she is being treated unfairly, then we have a woman in Hollywood being bullied by one of the largest studios.
One of the studios, by the way, who keeps using the diversity inclusion as a, high five for themselves every chance they get.
So why is it, again, just devil's advocate, why is it that it's mostly women that are being affected? Emma Stone, Emily Blunt?
I explained that last video.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's why in this case, I mean, if we're being fair, it's about the Disney Plus split. And with these other movies that have come out, because Disney's mandate to be female focused lately, the movies that were involved in the split, except for Jungle Cruise, which we'll talk about in a minute, they were led by women.
Yeah.
So those would be the ones that would be directly impacted by it. Come Shang-Chi time, unless the COVID. That's what I'm calling it now.
Tea time. Shang-Chi.
Come Shang-Chi time.
Shang-Chi tea time. Yeah.
I think that, the theaters, if we keep having issues with the pandemic and, alleged, issues or whatever, they might turn around and do that in Disney Plus as well. But up until now, it's only been female-led movies. Now, the difference being the Jungle Cruise. But as we talked about on the blog, it was The Rock's production company that was behind the Jungle Cruise. And apparently when Disney decided to release it on Disney Plus, they had went to them and reached an agreement with them because now it involved just not just the actor, his whole, production company. And they went ahead and made a deal with him apparently in some way that they made it right with the production company. And they had looked at their options. But the question is, did they make it right with Emily Blunt?
Yeah, and it might be a case of, The Rock is in, let's be honest, he's in a different league career-wise than Emily Blunt or even Emma Stone. ScarJo, though, she's one of the biggest female.
She's up there with them.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, but as far as the women goes, I mean, there is an actual reason for that is a fair and logical one. It has something to do with being about gender per se. But of course, they're all jumping on that and making it about gender.
So I could also play devil's advocate here and say, Disney could be replacing a lot of these stars, and I've said this before, with younger, cheaper
we already know they
actresses.
Are.
Yeah.
I mean, we already know that Robert Downey Jr. is out. He's not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
So they're going to bring Riri Williams in. We already know they're doing She-Hulk, and he's basically going to be like a backup support, so they put her, as the lead. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're already doing that. I don't know why they're not speaking out, but they said with Chris Evans. Chris Evans isn't even doing anything with Disney. Why isn't he saying something?
Well, it could be their contracts. It could be a case of, since Disney threw her salary out there publicly, they might not want their salaries.
Well, especially if it turns out they get a lot more money.
Yeah.
Disney's not going to do that because that would make them look even shittier. They're not going to do that.
Well, even if it's just like, how come, Robert Downey Jr., of course, is the highest paid, I'm sure, but it might be there might be such a huge, massive difference between, even what these guys are getting paid amongst themselves versus Scarlett Johansson, that is going to open up a massive can of worms. Massive can of worms. Again, shocked Disney threw the salary out there. That's a big no-no.
At the end of the day, we can all agree that their behavior, whether or not you think she has a case, whether or not you think she deserves more, the way Disney responded to it was really, really not okay.
It's not even, we're talking, not even normal for the industry. And again, that shows the difference between Iger and Chapek. Chapek is a numbers guy. Now, it could also be argued that maybe the industry needs an effing wake-up call.
Well, I think that's true, too.
That this is what the new normal is going to be, and you better effing deal with it.
Well, we already know that because they've already making comments that they're not going to be signing them to multi-picture deals like they've been doing because they're all focused on the stupid streaming services. So, it'll be interesting. I'm kind of really curious to see what happens at the next, the next investor call is going to be the end of the year call as well. Yeah. So I'm really interested to see. They won't let anybody ask questions unless you're Morgan Stanley or something like that. Yeah, they always get to ask questions. No one else does at these. But I'm kind of curious. Yeah,
because we done an article on Pirates and Princesses talking about the supposed Chapek and Iger rivalry that may or may not be going on behind the scenes, but it said there is definitely a difference in style. And
there's definitely a difference in style for sure.
Yeah, and Chapek, they said that he's not going to do executive contracts that are more than a year at a time. It's going to be performance based, like other companies outside of Hollywood, basically. A lot of companies, they're not, unless you're a proven performer, they're not going to bring you in and be like, you've got job security for 10 years.
Right.
5 years.
Yeah, those days are no longer with us.
And especially with Disney, with everything being up and down, and, Jungle Cruise didn't do great this weekend, and we know Black Widow didn't do that great for a Marvel movie, and, the money's drying up. So they're trying to claw back as much as they can. But they said that, Bob Chapek is to blame for the carnage. And he seems like such just a normal dude. This would be the dad next door.
Well, this is not his wheelhouse. Really? No. I don't know. He always kind of creeps me out.
He's just kind of really soft-spoken. And hey, we like
he is doing better than he did when he first started. But it's still
he just always seemed like a deer in the headlights. Now I'm starting to think that this guy is some Machiavellian genius. And this is all a front.
Do you remember that My Fellow Americans movie? Do you remember that? And it was the ex-presidents, and it turned out that these people were trying to kill them, and they couldn't figure out why. They want the president and everything else so they could take over. It turned out that the bumbling idiot vice president was behind the whole thing because he wasn't actually a bumbling idiot.
Oh, he was like the Dan Quayle.
Yeah, basically that was what it was supposed to be. Yeah. And that was what you reminded me of when you said that.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm like, is Bob Chapek really some devious mastermind who
no, I doubt that.
Everybody underestimates, oh my God, he got in and now he's just gonna.
I just think his wheelhouse is something completely different, is what I think.
He would be better working at some financial company as an accountant or something.
I think the reason he was chosen when we thought other people were going to be chosen was because he was the money guy and they wanted money.
Yep.
And the board wanted money.
So anyway, this is coming from the Wrap. They said that Chapek is to blame for the carnage to the company's standing in Hollywood's talent community. Again, maybe Hollywood needs an effing wake-up call. I think
Hollywood's very entitled, but I think the studios are worse.
Yep. Multiple insiders who spoke to the Wrap said they were surprised that the contract dispute was allowed to burst into public view at all.
Yeah, I was too.
And the industry may be facing a watershed moment over streaming and movie star profit participation. They also wonder if this is a crisis created by Chapek, who has few talent relationships and little practical experience dealing with movie stars.
He was more like the theme parks and the merchandise end of it.
Yeah.
He wasn't really the one that was interfacing with the Hollywood and the PR stuff like that. It was more like the studio, the amusement parks, the theme parks.
Yeah.
Sorry, my mind just froze for a moment there. Go ahead.
So that's a totally different set of skills.
It's a totally different beast.
It is. And but the thing is that, we said before, this might be the new normal for Hollywood. It might be that you're not going to have multi-millionaire celebrities. You're going to have people making pretty okay money going from Netflix gig to Netflix gig, but they're not going to be the multi-millionaires. They're not going to get residuals for the next 20, 30 years. Well,
they already were trying to change contracts for
Mm-hmm.
that. We know that they were doing that to people so they didn't go into the syndication model where they got paid for that, and the studios could keep the money. So at the end of the day, the studios are going to keep all the money.
So yeah, they said they suggested that she was being greedy and claiming $50 million in box office based back-end compensation in the suit. Johannsen's camp told The Wrap the actress was shocked by the tone. So were so many others in Hollywood, because guess what? You're next. You're next. Last time I checked, I was pretty sure that the senior team at Disney wouldn't get a lot of purchase by accusing someone else of being greedy, said one top executive in the industry, who called the response ham-handed.
It was a bit over the top.
Now they think that Kevin Feige is angry and
Yeah,
embarrassed.
I've heard that.
Because people aren't going to work for Marvel now. They're going to be like, well, yeah, if you back out of your contracts and you're going to call me out and plaster my salary all over the internet.
Yeah, that was not a smart move on Disney's part.
We might not work with you. HBO might be looking pretty good.
It just struck me more as like inexperience, or like they took it personally. Like someone took it personally, as opposed to a business, dealing, and they overreacted very strongly.
Well, here's what they said. They said it seems like Chapek is putting a lot of his industry and talent relations in the hands of his distribution group, which has proven to be inexperienced in the traditional ways that things are to be done.
Traditional ways. But sometimes traditional ways aren't always the best either, because stuff doesn't get changed if things are always stay the same. I mean, devil's advocate.
Oh, yeah. That wouldn't have happened under Bob Iger. He would have done it himself. Iger is a schmoozer. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that Kathleen Kennedy has been allowed to run amok at Lucasfilm because of Bob Iger. Mm-hmm. And
that's true.
Maybe we need somebody that's blunt like Bob Chapek to come in and be like, yeah, you know what? You're not bringing it anymore, and I'm not renewing your contract, and there's the door.
Yeah, I don't think everything is bad. I just think that the way they handled this situation could have been handled a lot better. I don't think going out and the company who's been known for doing shitty things during the pandemic shouldn't be out there like, well, you want more money? How dare you? You're being kind of greedy in this pandemic, aren't you? That was like,
Yeah, they're like Disney's approach under Iger would have been different. He would have been kinder. Here's a professor of marketing at USC Marshall School of Business. He said Bob Iger was named CEO in 2005, not only due to his business acumen, but for his mastery of developing and keeping relationships that he had honed for dozens of years working with temperamental, high-profile stars.
He has the background in this field.
Oh, boy. They basically said Chapek does not have the kid gloves, the Mickey kid gloves. That sounds really bad. But he's not catering to the stars. He's
but then part of me is kind of like, they get catered to enough, don't they?
Yeah.
But they took it too far.
I can see both sides of this one. I think that if Disney is not honoring their contracts, we know that they have a history of not honoring their contracts or trying to wriggle out of their contracts, even if it means like, selling one division off or something just to get out of having to pay people. And we saw it happen with Lucasfilm and the authors over there.
So, I mean, on that hand, it's about time someone calls their ass out.
Right. But then the flip side of that is this could also be the warning shot to Hollywood that, like, Hollywood as you knew it is over. You're not going to get paid $75 million when movies are only making $30 million at the box office.
Right. Well, because they're going to split it with their Disney Plus, and they want to keep all the money from that. So it's going to be like any other job where you do the job and you get paid for it, and that's the end of it. If there's any extra money made, they keep it.
Yep. So this person,
don't fuck with Kevin Feige.
History has proven don't fuck. Yeah, he got rid of Perlmutter. Yeah, he wins every time. There's nothing like Marvel. Well, we'll see. Mm-hmm. Schiffer called Johannsen's suit a reckless war from both sides. Said Chapek was not necessarily wrong for standing up to the actress's demands. We don't know what happened behind the scenes.
That's just it. We don't know. And I mean, I think I'm agree. I think where I'm at is agreeing with this. I don't necessarily think she deserves more money. We don't know the situation, but I also don't think Disney deserves more money either. And I think Disney, like I said, call people out for things that they themselves are guilty of doing. And that's what I'm like. Double standard is I have a problem with too.
Yeah, and they're talking about Tower of Terror, whether or not she's going to be
right. That's what I said. She's supposed to have be on that. They made a big deal about that. So I don't know, but it's just like, wow. It's just.
Yeah, and this is the thing. This is what the the problem is going to be is other stars could sue Disney.
But will they have the guts to do it?
I don't know. I mean, she's got the clout to do it, but you've got some B-lister. They're not going to be able to.
And then because she did this, is this going to mean that she's not going to be able to get jobs other places because their studios are afraid to hire her?
She's
fear that she's
difficult.
going to be difficult. Yeah.
She's a difficult woman.
So you can't win. It's like, you know, it's just a bad situation all the way around. Like someone, they said in the one article, they were surprised it even been made public because usually they resolve, this stuff kind of happens all the time. And usually they resolve it in the down low. It never usually gets to this point because no one wins.
Yeah.
You know, let's be honest, no one wins. So I don't know. It's just going to be real interesting for everybody else to watch.
I think a lot of people are going to be a lot more cautious about working with Disney. Let's put it that way. I think this is a lot of A-listers now are going to look at this and be like, yeah, hey, if they back out of this contract, I don't want to work with them. I don't want to work with them.
Yep.
So we'll see. All right, we got to wrap it up.
Yep.
All right, so please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.